Okay, so here I am. I am trying to do a live stream. Unfortunately, we're having a reappearance of the trade winds here. They should be completely gone by now, but I'm watching everything wiggling around outside. So I'm thinking that's why I don't have any internet this morning. And sometimes I don't know what my internet speed is like until I come on YouTube, and then it's like, oh, holy cow. So I'm going to do a quick video and I'm going to upload and then I'm going to join you guys. I have a lot to talk about today. My name is Suzanne Titkemeyer. If you don't know who I am, I used to write for Patheos, a blog called No Longer Quivering, having to do with the quiverful evangelical world in all its bizarrities. And I've always been a person that loves to laugh. So when a lot of laughable things or just plain old crazy things happen, I love to come on here and rant. These are just my opinions. Don't bully anybody. Don't even be rude. Don't bully anybody I'm talking about. Dang, I've got a ton of folks to talk about today and situations and things. Yesterday was Kentucky Derby Day, and I always try to watch the Derby. I used to love horses, love riding, the whole 9 yards, and I've always loved Kentucky Derby Day. I'm going to talk on that in a minute. But I wanted to start with Down the Rabbit Hole Bedtime was talking to me earlier as I was trying to do a live stream about not talking about why I don't talk about Katie Joy any longer. Well, I need to talk just a hair about that. I don't talk about Katie Joy anymore because my husband twisted my arm, my leg, my my hair bun, my nose. He twisted various things emotionally to get me to stop talking about her. And he has a point. So that's why I finally did it, because while sometimes I will just he'll tell me something and I'll go, no, I'm not doing that, or no, that's wrong, just because I'm in a fractious mood. But I had to admit he had a point. And my dislike of Katie Joy and the things she'd done to me had spiraled into an obsession. Yesterday I was watching Star Trek, and it was the episode called Obsession, where Kirk had an obsession with a race of aliens he'd encountered years before that nobody else had encountered. So I was watching that. My husband said, "Can you see you were not like that about Katie? You were like that about Katie Joy before I insisted you stop." My obsession with Katie Joy had taken the point where it was stopping me from finishing my book. So I'm trying to work on that now. But it had colored my life, and I was like, Jim, you'll never believe the thing that Katie Joy has done this time. So taking a step back and not really paying much attention to her, giving her no more rent for free in my mind, all that has been nothing but healthy for my mental. It's been a positive step for me. Now I understand there's some of you who are going to continue to speak about her, and that is fine. And right now she's making all these crazy claims about a documentary. And as I told Renell Smith and others, here's the thing about documentaries, okay? And this is something I've learned the hard way myself. Documentarians, when they first start working on a project, will identify a pile of people they'll talk to, and they will talk to those people and go back and forth for a while, and then later say, hey, can we film you for the documentary? And because of COVID, filming has been reduced to doing oh, shoot, I forgot what they even call that stupid thing. It's reduced to online. I've filmed for like 5 or 6 documentaries over the past 3 or 4 years, and I've always ended up on the cutting room floor. So they're going to talk to a massive number of people. They're not going to use everything and everybody that they have tapped. What they're going to use is they're going to use the people who are the least problematic, who have the strongest narrative or claim to whatever's going on. Now, I knew on 2 of those documentaries I had doomed myself. One of them, which is a series on HBO, because the documentarians asked me in 2 different documentaries if I thought someone had purposely killed Gwen Shamblin Lara and her husband Joe. And both times I just busted out laughing and was falling on the floor and was like, are you kidding me? And I started talking about evangelical overconfidence is what killed them. Now, I've seen this again and again and again and again and again, where you have this cognitive dissonance going on where you think that you're an expert at whatever, and then you act like you're an expert and it kills you or it does you serious harm. I've seen that happen again and again. It's a common feature, not a bug, of evangelicalism. So, a lot of people are angry right now about Katie Joy and her claims of a Netflix documentary. I don't know about the IBLP that focuses on the Duggars. It's about the Duggars. I think probably what may have happened is they realized that Katie Joy is a derivative, that none of her information is original, that she makes shit up if she doesn't have a source, she makes stuff up. And the sources she has, she never vets them. So I would bet dollars to donuts that's why they're not using her in the documentary. There was no guarantee they were going to ever use her. They could have interviewed her and thought she was boring or whatever and not used her at her on the cutting room floor. For me, the fun of doing the documentaries and letting them film me was that so many times I would tell tales of my old church. I'm going to call it Possum Creek, and because that's real close to the name, and it doesn't exist anymore, by the way. I would tell tales of Possum Creek, and I could see on the other side of the documentarian drop their notebook or their jaw would hang open. I'd shock them and would say, I had no idea it was actually that awful inside these things. It's like, well, yeah, unless you're in them, you're not going to get the full load of awful. So that's why I no longer talk about Katie Joy, and it is healthier for me not to do so. Like I said, I was delaying finishing my book and delaying getting any editing done. The second set of editing is going on right now, and I'm not super thrilled with it. I'm going to have to change some things because one of my editors is super tough. That's just the way it is. So I will continue not speaking about Katie Joy, but I've stepped back from all that. I've stepped back from even watching what she's doing. She no longer has any power over me whatsoever. So what if she stole a bunch of shit? That's the way the toilet cake crumbles. Okay. So the main thing I want to talk about this morning, a couple of main things. Unirock. Unirock. If you remember, I've talked about Unirock a couple of times about his DD-214 and about stolen valor. I'm still not entirely convinced his DD-214 is actually real. I believe it's altered. I sent it off to some people I know who deal with stolen valor, and I've washed my hands of it. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to laugh when crazy things happen to Uni. Okay, so Unirock is now experiencing what everybody has dubbed Lettergate. Lettergate. And he has really been just almost unhinged over it, claiming that Jonathan Lee Riches, who is a YouTuber who does true crime, who has a problematic former history. I don't know about now what he's like. Hopefully he's changed, but he sent a cease and desist to Unirock, and because he didn't have a good address on him, he sent it the same cease and desist to various other addresses that are part of the Unirock circle of life. Circle of address life. I'm sorry, I'm super, super sarcastic today. It's been one of those weekends. And Uni's mommy got one, Mama got one, and loaded her pew-pew and expressed how nervous and upset and frightened she was. Uni said he couldn't show it, that it was a threat letter about legal actions, and he couldn't show it on the advice of his lawyer. Well, this is where Aaron, EKC People Sucks, is hero of the week. Aaron, here's your prize, a pineapple. You are the hero of the week because she contacted JLR, and that's what I'm going to call him because apparently that's what he goes by now. JLR's media person and said, "Hey, I'm trying to verify what went out to Stone Loan, as I call him sometimes. Um, what happened? What went out? Can you talk about this? I need a statement." And JLR's publicity person actually told her and gave her a copy of the cease and desist letter that went out. And it was a cease and desist in which JLR was asking for certain content to go down and giving Uni a time frame that this had to happen in, and promised that, well, didn't promise, said, if this does not happen, I may be filing a lawsuit against you. And Uni just freaked the F out, just freaked out like this was, so he was running around like humming with it like a guy with his head cut off over this thing, and was throwing like, I can't show you my lawyer, blah, blah, blah. And it's a cease and desist letter, dude. It's not a nuclear bomb, nor is it a envelope full of anthrax. So I kind of laughed about this because writing for Pathos, I certainly got my share of cease and desist. I sure did. Stateside here, whatever. And I've only complied with only, so I've had like 20 or 30 maybe. I've only complied with maybe 2 or 3 total. And the ones that I complied with were ones where my lawyer said, hey, yeah, this person is possibly mentally unwell. It might behoove you to go in there and remove the content. That's the only time I ever did it, was on the advice of my lawyer. But guess what? I never ran around screeching about my cease and desist. I just pulled up my big girl panties and dealt with it. I said, yeah, no, or yeah, yes, I guess I'll take the stuff down. So to see him just losing it over a simple cease and desist has been endlessly amusing to me. And I don't think anybody will ever take Unirock seriously ever again over this nonsense. So did Unirock, Magic 8 Ball, did Unirock overreact? Very decidedly. And there you have it from the Magic 8 Ball. So that's a thing. Now, I haven't really kept up with Michelle Sabata until the last couple days. I've tried to stay away from problematic people like her, like Uni, like the aforementioned Katie Joy. But every now and then you see enough people talk about something that you got to go in and look, and you're kind of like, I can't look away. I can't look away because it's a train wreck, a flaming train wreck going off the side of a cliff into a lagoon of alligators, rapacious, hungry alligators. And so it has been with Michelle Goes Live this week. Oh my word! Um, she got squashed in the middle of a live stream from yet another YouTube channel. I don't know why she thinks she's ever going to be able to be allowed on YouTube, because she's made enough enemies where people are going to keep reporting her regardless. So I think it's kind of silly for her to keep doing that, trying to be one. But the funniest thing about all of this with Michelle has been she has a looming deadline of May the 31st that she has to be out of her marital home, the house that she's living in Georgia. Her husband has made it very clear she has to be out. And if she's not out, he may be selling his half to the bank at a loss just to be done with it and let the bank deal with her, which will not be a good thing. Not good at all. I mean, I've seen things like this go down in my years. The kind of work I've done, I've seen this happen, and it's pretty awful. When you have a tenancy in common, in other words, you own a piece of property with somebody else, it can go sideways in a hurry. So you better be really rock solid about who it is you're owning property with. And so I watch Michelle, I watch her running around claiming that she's filed this paperwork. I looked at the paperwork. It's farcical. It's handwritten. It's like, how do you think the court is going to ever take that seriously? She's trying to say because Etienne did no repair work that she requested in 2 years. Daddy can't kick her out of the house. Bull, you know what? He sure can. He can sell that Tennessee in Common to anybody. He could sell it to crackheads. He could sell it to the mafia. He could sell it to any number of people. And guess what would happen? Nothing good. So I'm kind of sitting back waiting to see what happens because someone has built up enormously bad karma. And this week, she was saying some pretty majorly awful things about a 19-year-old, the 19-year-old daughter of I See What You Can't. Just making all kinds of weird, sexual, just awful things and saying it. And I'm just like, ugh. We're not supposed to go real life on the internet. And you don't go after people's kids. I don't care. I don't care who and what they are. You just don't do that. Awful people do that. And that is the reason why Michelle is on, what is it, channel 35 or some ridiculous number of YouTube channels. And I saw her talking to Ski Mask Andy the other day, talking about if she could just get somebody to move in with her to have a YouTube channel that she could use for dollars to get monetized and get the rental money and do Airbnb, that she would be able to buy the house. Dream on. Never happening. My understanding is where she lives, you're not allowed to do Airbnb, and there are a lot of places like that. They're trying to make it illegal here in Costa Rica at various places. And I thought about doing it for a while myself because I have a guest house. I have a fully functioning, very nice guest house. Once a year, I make myself stay in it for a week so I can see what it's like in there. And every year, I always find 2 or 3 things I want to upgrade or bring in that I didn't have before. But here's the thing. To be a really good Airbnb host is a lot of work. I don't see her doing that. I could be wrong. She might be the most hardworking gal on the planet, but I don't see it. It's not a matter of just saying, okay, here's the place. I know somebody here that has a business. All he does is what they call white glove service. He doesn't rent people's places on Airbnb. They rent them themselves. But what he does is he goes in and he makes sure that everything is not just clean, but white glove clean, and that the place is stocked with everything you could imagine, that there's beer, wine, soft drinks, whatever, and that there is basic groceries and different things like that. I think it's an intriguing business model, especially here where people come for vacation and expect the luxury experience. They really do. And I don't blame them because, especially now, plane tickets are completely crazy right now. We're trying right now to go to the US and the ticket prices are insane. So it's like every day, 2 or 3 times a day, I'm going on Google Flights and I'm a Googling looking for decent price tickets where I don't have to spend 12 hours at the Atlanta airport. And it's not as easy as one might think. So I think Michelle needs to give up these ideas and slink quietly off into that good night. She just had a cooking channel. That might be one thing. But when you start saying those things about 19-year-old kids of somebody that is clipping your channel because you're doing crazy stuff, you have clearly lost the plot. So, okay, I'm done with my petty YouTubers. I wanted to talk just a hair about the Kentucky Derby. I watched the Derby yesterday, but I always watch the Derby because I love horses. I always did. As a kid, I rode extensively. This old fat lady ain't getting on a horse anytime soon, but I still like to watch some of the races and look at horse culture and all that. And the Kentucky Derby is the Super Bowl of horse racing. I like to figure out who I'm going to fake bet on. And last night I forced my husband to watch it with me. He usually doesn't, but we were up in the bed, giggling and fooling around, and it turned into a Kentucky Derby watch party with me watching everybody's fascinators and hats, noticing all the jockeys, looking to see who the jockeys were and which jockeys, what their records were, and looking at the horses. Now, this is a world too that I had a very slight connection to because one of my daughters is horse mad, worse than I ever was. And she used to work for a stable in Virginia that had, these high level racehorses, these thoroughbreds. She worked there for a year or so, I think. And watching the things that went on there and hearing her stories just kind of added to my fascination with it. So I watched yesterday, and I am very happy to report that the horse that won was a long shot. I was really glad. I'm always rooting for the long shots. And the jockey, bless his heart, Javier, and I totally forgot, Castellano, was voted Jockey of the Year a number of years. And they brought him in as a last second replacement to a jockey. And he was actually over the hill for a jockey, 45 years old. So I am thrilled for him that he finally won the Kentucky Derby as an old fart because that is just amazing. Most of the time, jockeying is not an easy task. You have to be like 105 pounds, some ridiculously low weight. And we see a lot of Hispanic jockeys. This guy was from Argentina, and it's a tough job. Uh, a lot of things can happen to you. You can get really physically messed up really hard. I've seen a number of jockeys die riding horses. And the other thing with the Kentucky Derby this year is they had something like 7 horses die at the track. Now it's a all dirt track, and there are special circumstances with that come with just about every kind of track you can try. And they're trying to figure out why. Now, I'm thinking that the Kentucky Derby, like NFL and some other things that I used to love, maybe the time has passed and maybe we shouldn't be torturing animals to run because that's basically what it is, such the training and everything. I don't know how I feel about that now. And I know this was one of the Queen's big hobbies was breeding and owning racehorses as well as riding. She rode until an extremely advanced age, and that's mighty brave of her to do. That's all I can say, because it's really easy to get injured when you're riding. You can get kicked, you can fall off, all kinds of different things can happen. When I was a girl and used to ride, I would fall off sometimes, or maybe my horse would butt me off, different things. And when you're a kid, it's one thing to pick yourself up, dust your rear end off, and get back on the horse. But when you get a little age on you, where you get the age like where I am now, where you can throw your back out sleeping, it becomes a little bit of a different animal there. So I'm going to segue from that into the coronation. I was going to get up and watch the coronation. I had every intention of doing that. I got up early and watched Prince Charles marry Lady Diana. Got up early to watch the funeral of Prince Philip, the funeral of Queen Elizabeth. So I've been planning on this, and my screwed up sleep schedule really put the kibosh on that. And that's another reason why I haven't been on YouTube quite as much, is because of that. So I'm watching Coronation, and I hate to say it, but poor Prince Charles does not look well. King Charles now. And part of me is laughing over the original name of King Charles III, because King Charles I was beheaded. King Charles II made all of his money in the slave business of exporting slaves from Africa to the New World. So that is a lot of dirty money that has comprised a lot of much of the wealth of the monarchs. And that's not such a good thing. So that's a whole lot of bad karma there connected to that name. I'm not sure I wouldn't have changed Arthur as his name too. I don't know that I wouldn't have been King Arthur instead. But we shall see. I have to say that I did get the biggest kick out of the lady carrying the sword, the jeweled ceremonial sword. And her blue outfit was just breathtaking. The rest of it, meh. I watched clips. I watched them crown Camilla And she's fiddling with the crown over and over in her hair, and don't squash my hairdo while you're putting the crown on me. And the only thing I could think of was just feel sad thinking about Princess Diana. Princess Diana, love her or hate her, should have been there. And that was just one very bad marriage. It didn't have to be that way. And a cheating bastard married to his mistress. I have no respect for that whatsoever. I'm not one of those people. I don't put up with that. Infidelity, in my opinion, it's a pretty big character flaw, regardless of why. It just is. You just don't do that. You just don't. But that's me speaking, who had a mate that wasn't very faithful at one point. Not my husband now. He is good as gold on so many things, even though I sometimes will give him a crap about everything under the sun for fun, like forcing him to watch the Kentucky Derby with me, even though he had no real interest in it. Good guy, a good guy, and a good guy is currently trying to get me to attend the gym with him and do exercise. His newest thing is they're going to teach aerobics in our pool, and he expects me to put on my swimsuit and go out and take that class in our pool with a bunch of 20-somethings whose rear ends are about this wide. So I'm trying to figure out a swimsuit situation. Magic 8 Ball, will it be populated just with those tiny little 20-somethings, or will I not be it? It is decidedly so. So I got some more thinking to do about what I am going to wear. And there was one other thing I wanted to talk about. I'm trying to remember. My brain is not. Oh! Lori Alexander has been fighting with Elizabeth, I don't know how you pronounce her last name, Prata, Prater. Elizabeth is another cultural enforcer, but she's not a quiverful cultural enforcer, so I've never really had much to do with her. I haven't watched her. I just every now and then would see Lori Alexander retweeting things that Elizabeth said. Elizabeth is going after Lori Alexander so hard that Lori brought Ken in to defend herself this morning, and I kind of was giggling. Because that's what Lori does. She will stir up that kind of trouble. Then when she gets pushback, she'll nope out and bring Ken in to do cleanup in the kitchen for her too hot of a kitchen. And I just sit back and just laugh. It's one of the most ridiculous things I've seen. One of the most ridiculous things ever. Oh. And so it's a good thing to return to feeling my usual amused self about everything. And I spent the morning doing the most immature thing of all times. I made a ton of funny Prince Charles memes, King Charles memes, and sharing those all on the internet because I'm just that way. I'm that kind of immature. Okay, you guys, I got to go back to the slavery that is book editing right now. And I have laundry working. I've got chicken cooking. And real life is calling. Love you guys so much. Sorry this is not live, but it is what it is.